My name is Linda Christy. I'm from Windsor, Ontario, Canada. A little bit about my background. I was a primary school teacher and special needs. I ended up taking early retirement to take care of my parents who were in their 90s at home. Two people in wheelchairs. First of all, my health was not great. My spine is deformed. I have a double scoliosis with rotation. There are some discs that are herniated, some that are bulging, some that are deformed. I have, from the center of the spine, a 6-inch deviation that pushes my left lung out of place. So my spine is very severe. There are places in the spine where the doctors can actually put their hands between the discs. I had been warned by the doctors that I was not to take care of my parents, that I needed a caregiver myself. But they were my parents and I loved them, and of course I would take care of them. There was no question about that was going to be my job, to take care of them. My husband had quadruple bypass surgery, and he is a heart patient, but he also took early retirement so that we could take care of my parents at home. By August of 2010, my mother and my father had just passed, both of them within 7 months. And the doctors told me that that no longer could I use the 2 canes and the walker, but that now I was in a wheelchair. The doctors didn't understand why I had fought being in a wheelchair, but I couldn't transfer my parents in and out of their wheelchairs and give them baths and what was needed if I was in a wheelchair, so I was using 2 canes. But it was very quickly to the point where I could no longer do that. It was August of 2010, and I was dusting a bookshelf, and I had bought, back in the 80s, the book of Medjugorje. And being a primary teacher, we like pictures. This was a book with a lot of words, no pictures, and I was very busy taking care of my parents. I never read the book. I can be very honest, I never read it. I put it in a bookshelf with the rest of the books. Well, that August of 2010, I was dusting the bookshelf, and as I left the room, a book fell off of my shelf. I went to pick it up, and I thought, well, that was really strange, but maybe I had knocked a book out of place. And I picked it up, and it was the Medjugorje book. And I just put it back in and was turned, walking out of the room, and I heard plop. And I went back and I picked up the book, and it was the Medjugorje book. And because the Catholic Church doesn't really say anything about Medjugorje, and I didn't know anybody who had been here, I picked up the book and I took it to my husband and I said, this is really strange. This book has fallen out of the bookshelf twice. I wonder if this is still going on. And that was my words. I wonder if this is still going on. And so I have a niece who would be the only one, my godchild, who would be the only one who would know. I called her and she said, of course, the visions are still happening. Of course, I've been here twice. And I said, well, why haven't you talked to me about it? Why haven't you shared that? So she gave me the phone number and the address of a person who brings groups here, Marie Vidic. I called her and she said, yes, I've got a group coming in October. So immediately, without even discussing it with my husband, I booked our trip. I sent her a check, and then I told my husband, oh, by the way, we're going. And he said, well, how can you go? I mean, you can't walk. And at that point, I was doing nothing more than, that was how I got here. Anyway, the trip takes 24 hours from where we are. We flew into Vienna, then took another plane to Sarajevo and got on the bus. By the time we got here, I was in such excruciating pain. I remember the pain because I remember praying to die. There was no doctor that I could find in all of Ontario to help me, except one doctor in London, who we finally found, and for about 3-4 years, I'd been going to him once a month, and he was shooting an experimental drug into my spine, and the needle was about this long, in the vial, and he would hold it in his fist, and he would jam it in, right across from one shoulder to the other, and down the spine, which mine, of course, was like this, and he would shoot one in on one side of it, and the other side, and all the way down. And my back would be so swelled that I would have to stay in a hotel for 2 days, laying on my side, because I couldn't sit upright. My back was so swelled. When the swelling would go down, I would have roughly 2 weeks of a little bit of a relief. But of course, that was also with taking OxyContin, which is a hard narcotic. And the two together, the injections with the OxyContin, would only give partial relief of pain. I get here to Medjugorje. My husband is saying, this is crazy, what are we doing here? And there was no sense arguing with him because we were here. We were here. And so we get to our pension, and I've been booked to sleep on the 3rd floor. I can't walk. I've been carried in through the airports and everywhere in a wheelchair. I am now shuffling even slower than I was. And I looked at the marble staircase and I started crying because I couldn't get up to my room. And the owner of the pension, she came out, she heard the crying, and she came out and she saw me there, and she saw my condition, and she started crying. So I turned around, and finally, and I bummed it all the way up. When I got upstairs, I crawled across the floor. That night at dinner, my husband said, we're going to get somebody to switch rooms with us so that you don't have to do this again. No one would switch rooms. And the owner of the house, all she could do was cry and say, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. But that night at our dinner, it was announced that tomorrow we're climbing Apparition Hill. I can't get to my bedroom. How am I going to climb Apparition Hill? So I came to church. I said to my husband, we have to go to Mass first. And I have to pray at the statue. People told me there was a statue in front of the church. And so after Mass, it was really strange because I went into Mass and people pushed me. They didn't push my husband, but they kept pushing me, and I got right up to the front. And so we were separated. So after Mass, I waved to him to come to me. He came to me, and we're up by the altar. And he says, let's go back to the house. And I said, no, I have to go and pray. And he said, but this way is short. It's back straight to the house. That way's through all the people. And I said, that way through the people. So we went and I prayed at the statue. And I said to Mary, if you want me up your hill, you're going to have to help me because I can't get there. I can't. And then we went back, and the group was gathering on the street in front. And being the tourist and being a first-timer, I thought, oh, well, a bus is going to come and take us there. And everybody started laughing at me. They just said, no, there it is. They pointed and they said, you know, start walking. That's the way we get there. No one told me I could take a cab. So there I went with my husband, and my husband is saying, you know your condition of your spine. You know the condition you're in. Why are you doing this? And I kept saying, I have to try. I didn't come halfway around the world not to try. And so down through the dirt path we went, past the grapevines, and our entire group already went up to Apparition Hill and back, had prayed there, and back, and I'm still on the dirt going. So when we get to the cobblestone area, I said, see, well, this isn't bad. It's going to take us a long time, but at least I'll make it. Don't worry, we'll go really slow, and I'll make it. So we get to the, for walking, it's steep, and I'm sitting on this person's stoop and this person's stoop and sitting down on, and some people came out and said, that's okay, stay, stay. They could see that I was just thoroughly exhausted. And I'm not even to the mountain yet. And then we get to the mountain, to the base of the mountain, and I looked up and I go, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. My husband is saying, come on, we're turning around, we're going back. If you hurt yourself, there's no hospital here, no doctors here. What are we going to do? What am I going to do with you? Look at the condition of your spine already. You can't go. You're not going, you're not going. And I said, again, I didn't come halfway around the world not to try. I have to put my feet on her mountain. I don't care how far up I go. I just have to put my feet there. So I took a couple steps, and the main group is going over kind of to one section, and I went over closer to this one tree because I wanted to stay away and out of the way for people who were going quicker. So I got up a few of the rocks, and I was approximately a meter away from my husband. And I knew I had to be that distance away because he was grabbing for me to come down. So I knew I had to be that way away from him. Now, you've got to realize I'm standing like this. I cannot stand straight upright. And I know, and so I'm trying to pull back so that he doesn't, and he's grabbing for me. Now, for the last 15, 18 years of our marriage, he has had to roll me out of bed. He has had to dress me, put my underwear on me, put my pants on me, put my shoes, my socks. He's had to dress me. So now I'm standing on a hill and telling him, no, you come to me. I'm not coming to you. Come and stand with me on Mary's Hill. Just come to me. And he takes a step, and he falls down. And so I'm just trying to encourage him. Just get up and come to me. Just come to me. That's all we have to do. If you come to me here on Mary's Hill, I don't have to go any farther. I'll be fine. And so he's on his knees and he's still pleading with me to come down. You've got to come down. And all of a sudden, a lady all dressed in white comes from this side of me. And she had the bluest eyes and the most beautiful voice. As soon as she opened her mouth, a thought went through my head that I'd never had before is, I wish I could hear her sing. She's got such a beautiful voice. And she only said to me, I have your guardian angel with me. I said, excuse me? She says, I have your guardian angel with me. I said, thank you. And she puts her hand out, and this little short man comes up to me, and he says, can I help you up the mountain? And I'm looking at the lady, and I'm looking at Greg on his knees, and I'm looking at this man, and I said, no, thank you. I will get up the mountain, but my husband can't get up the mountain. Can you help him up the mountain? And he smiled, and he nodded, and he went down, and I looked, and the lady was gone. Gone. He went down, he took the backpack, put it on his back, held my husband very firmly under his arm, and the two of them started to come up. Now I know I have to get a distance away from my husband because I know he's still going to grab me to pull me down. So I'm standing there and I'm trying to get away, and so I turn with my two canes slowly to go up the mountain, and all of a sudden I stood straight up, which I hadn't done for 20 years, and my feet just started running. I started running up the hill, and my canes were kind of flopping behind me. I was just hitting the tops of the stones. It was unbelievable, and I was so happy, and I ran down, and I'd run back up, and I'd run down, and I'm going, hurry up, guys, hurry up. Come on, you've got to come. And so then all of a sudden I thought, well, I got to go down. I'll give my husband the canes, and maybe he can come faster. So I ran down, and I said, here's the canes. Use the canes, too, and hurry up. Come on, we've got to get up there. And I turned around, and I kept running, and people are hollering at me. What's wrong with you, lady? Are you crazy? Don't run on this mountain. It's dangerous. Don't do that. And all I could say was, I have no control over my feet. Now you realize, I haven't run for 20 years. I am so out of breath and out of shape. I'm going, but my feet are going. My feet are going. I just couldn't stop them, and I just kept going and going and going. And I kept going back and forth, hurry up, hurry up. And so they came slowly and steadily. They came all the way up. And then my guardian angel said, here is a flat rock for you to sit on. Stay as long as you want, and I will be right behind you. And he's looking right in my eyes. And I smiled, and then I grabbed him, and I hugged him, and I started crying, and I said, you don't know what a gift you have given me. I needed my husband to be with me. And he went, and he sat right behind me, and there was. A couple days ago when I climbed Apparition, there is no flat rock there. I knew where it was, but I kept looking. There is no flat rock. There was a flat rock it was like a bench. We sat down. We stayed for about 2 hours. We said the rosary, Divine Mercy. We prayed every prayer that we knew. We just sat in and absorbed all the prayers of everyone else. Looked out onto the countryside to see the beauty of it. Just couldn't get enough of it. And finally, and at this point, my husband is looking at me like, what just happened? You can't walk, you can't get to your bedroom, and you're running up a mountain? What happened? And I'm going, I don't know, Greg. I don't know. And so I finally nodded. My guardian angel came around, picked up the canes, gave them to my husband, put the backpack on his back. Greg grabbed my husband very firmly by the arm, and as soon as we started, my feet, and it was like I didn't go like a slow start into a run. It was like immediately it would almost whip my head. It was like, boom, I was running again. And going down the mountain, people are hollering at me more so because it's really dangerous running down a mountain. And then all of a sudden, I hit a rock that was loose. And my first thought was, somebody's going to hit that rock and hurt themselves. They're going to slide on that rock. So I bent down and I moved the rock to a safe place. I can't bend. I can't dress myself. I'm moving a rock. And all of a sudden, this thought came over me. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh sweet Jesus. Oh Mother Mary, Virgin, I have felt your heart. If I could see your heart, that would make my life complete. And all of a sudden, right from moving that rock, I went back into, and whoop, I was whipped into running. Not a slow, just getting into it. I'm like the road runner, just gone again. And my husband and the guardian angel are coming slowly down. And, well, I didn't care. I didn't care about getting down fast. That wasn't a problem. But, like I said, all our group was gone except for one girl. And she was hollering at me, where's your canes? How come you're standing upright? What are you doing running? Why are you running? How are you running? And she says, slow down. I can't keep up with you. And I'm sailing. I'm just flying down, flying up, flying down, and kept going until I got to near the second mystery, the joyful mystery, the second one. And I did not realize until this time when I went back that that is where the cross is. I didn't realize that because everything was, I was so confused. I couldn't understand what was going on for so long. I'd been so helpless. And then now all of a sudden I'm free. And I realize now I really shouldn't have said that to God. I have felt your heart. I would love to see your heart. It would make it complete. But I did say that. And all of a sudden, right by that second mystery, where the cross is now, there was a ray of light down onto the dirt. And there was my heart. The light was shining right on the heart. And I knew that was meant for me to take. So I picked it up, my heart. I've not cleaned it. I've not done anything. This doesn't look like a stone from here. This is just a beautiful heart. And so I clutched it in my hand, and I got down to the bottom of the mountain, and I'm standing there waiting for my husband and my guardian angel to come down. He took us right through, and I'm clutching this. I think I clutched it for 3 days. I never told my husband even. I couldn't let go of it. I just couldn't even open my hand. And I got down through the cobblestones. The three of us walked through the cobblestones right to where the dirt starts. And he said to us, "You'll be okay now." And I turned to look, and he took off the backpack, put it on my husband, and turned to look at him, and he was gone. And I turned to my husband, and Greg said to me, "What just happened?" And I said, I don't know. I don't know. I can walk, I can run, I can stand straight. I have zero pain in my spine. Zero pain. And I said to my husband, "Don't tell anyone." He said, "Okay." I said, "Because we were with a group of 75 people. I don't know those people, they don't know me, and I don't want anyone to ever think I was a phony. And second reason, everyone is here praying for something, and I don't want anybody to be jealous of me. So for those two reasons, Greg, please don't tell anyone." And so we walked back to our pension. And you see, I didn't realize God had it in his plan. That one girl from our group that was trying to catch up to me, she had witnessed it. So before you know it, everyone knew about it. Everyone. And I felt bad because I like I said, I didn't know these people, they didn't know me, and I didn't want anybody to say, "Oh, well, she was making it up." I didn't want that to happen, and I didn't want anybody to be jealous saying, "Oh, well, how come I've been here 4 times or 10 times or 20 times and I've never had my prayers answered?" I didn't want anybody to be jealous of me. But now I know that I have to tell the story. When I got back to Canada, I had gone to the doctor, had my injections just before we came in October, and I went back to my doctor the first week of November, and I walked into his office just like this, and I said, "Doctor, I'm only here to tell you I don't need the shots anymore." And he said, "What do you mean you don't need the shots anymore?" I said, "Well, you see, I don't need the shots anymore." And he says, "But you can't do that." And I says, "But I can do it." And he says, "No, you can't. How come you're doing that? What happened to you?" And I said, "Well, doctor, I went to Medjugorje, and I had a miracle. And I don't need the canes anymore, I don't need the wheelchair anymore, and I don't need your shots anymore." And he says, "I want to hear this whole story." And I said, "Well, doctor, it's really too long, as you can tell. I can't just jump in. You have to hear the whole story." And I said, "It's too long for you. Sorry, I'll tell you whenever you have a chance." And he got up, he went to the door, and he said to his receptionist, "Reschedule all the afternoon appointments." And he came back, sat down, and he said, "Now start at the beginning. I want to hear the whole story." And I spent 4 hours with him. He was only a Catholic in name. He is now a practicing Catholic. He has now told well over 2,000 of his patients. And remember, he is a doctor, he's a specialist who only sees people who are in desperate situations. He's not a regular physician. It's only people who every other doctor has refused to treat. So these are very serious people, very serious problems. And so he says, my people, my patients need to hear a story of love and hope. And that's what your story is. And so he now continues to tell the story. So when I was leaving, I went to see him the week before to come here, and I said to him, what can I bring you from Medjugorje? And he says, more good stories. That's all I need. And I said, you know what? It's about time you started passing out the medals. I'll bring you some medals from Medjugorje to pass out to the people you tell the story. Because the day after my miracle, I went back to Mass, of course, and I went back to the statue of Mary, and I said to, as soon as we got there, I burst into a cryptic smile because I said, Greg, what do you see? And he said, she's talking to us. Her mouth is wide open, and her eyes are blue. Her eyes are bright blue, and her right eye is bluer than the left. And I said, yes. I mean, so I had to hear it from him that he could see it, that it wasn't just me. And so I shout out to everyone, look, Mary's statue, her eyes are blue and she's talking to us, her mouth is open. And the people are looking at me like I was crazy. And so I picked up this camera I had just bought and didn't, all I know is one button to press. I pressed the one button and I said to the lady beside me, here, look, you can see. Her eyes are open, her eyes are blue, and and so she's looking at the camera and looking at the statue. Passed it on, passed it on, passed it on. I thought, oh, I'm never going to see that camera again. It was gone for about 15 minutes around. And I said, right then and there, to the Virgin, that anyone who hears my story of Medjugorje, the Virgin Mary's story, that everyone who hears the entire story would get a medal and a picture of the statue from that day. And I'm well over 300 now, 300 people. And the funny thing is that I only brought 100 medals myself from Medjugorje. And I thought, oh, that'll take me a long time to tell people. And it didn't. I ran out, and I had 4 medals left, and I started crying. And because I had a bag that I'd refill, and my safety pin that I carry to pass out the medal, to pass out. And my safety pin was empty. I went back to the bag. There were only 4 medals left. So I started crying. And Greg said, what's the matter? And I says, how can I keep the promise to Mary I made when I'm running out of medals? I can only tell the story to 4 more people. What am I going to do? Now, this was a Tuesday, and I got a phone call from a girl who was on the trip with us when I had my miracle. And she said, I don't know if you remember me, but I'm an artist. I would love to have a copy of the picture that you took, because of course they hadn't been developed when I was here on the trip. And she says, I'd love to do a picture, you know, a large painting of it, an acrylics painting, and could I have a copy of the picture? And I said, absolutely. Can I get it to you this weekend? And she said, no. I said, well, next week. Do you want to meet at my house or your house or somewhere else? Or I'll get it. She says, no, next week's not going to work either. And I said, how about next weekend? Gee, that's not going to work either. So I thought it was really strange that she had called when she wasn't going to be available. And I said, oh, well, then you tell me when I can bring it to you. And she said, well, you see, on Friday I'm leaving for Medjugorje. And I said, bring me medals, and you can have all the pictures you want. And so that has now happened twice. Twice people have called me and asked me if I needed more medals. I have prayed about this, and my only prayer to Mary when I climbed the hill this time, this trip was so emotional for me because this was my thank you trip. Every cell in my body was shaking when I got to Apparition Hill this year. Everybody was writing letters to the Virgin Mary. I wrote, Sweet Mother Mary Virgin. And I sat and looked at the paper and I said, I can't ask you for anything. And I wrote, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm embarrassed to ask you for anything more when you have given me so much. How could I even think of asking for more? Thank you, thank you, thank you, Linda, with all my heart, love. I can't ask her for more. What more could I ask for that she hasn't already given me? She has provided me with the medals. She has given me the miracle of no pain. Oh, I guess I should tell you that after the doctor wanted me to continue taking the OxyContin, this hard narcotic, until one day I just finally said, I've had a miracle. Why am I on these drugs? And I stopped taking them completely. Right now, I have not a pill in me. I have no injections in me. I have no medications in me at all. And here I am, coming here. I had to jump a fence to get here. And we're going to climb Blue Cross Mountain this afternoon. So all I can say is, thank you. That's all I can say.